Hi everybody, today we're going to look at finding solutions to trig equations over the interval 0 to 2 pi, and what I really want to do is give you some tips for finding the answers of inverse functions. Our first problem says sine theta is 0.65 and we're going to solve over 0 to 2 pi. So we know if sine theta is 0.65, then sine inverse of 0.65 is going to be theta. That says we're going to grab our calculator, make sure that you're in radians, and we're going to calculate sine inverse of 0.65, and you'll get that theta is 0.7076. So that's a great start. We have one solution. What I want you to think about is that when we do the inverse function, it's only going to give us the answer in one quadrant, and we have to think what other quadrants do we need to use. So the first thing I want to do is bring in an xy axis. I put some labels in to help us visualize where theta is going to be. So notice pi over 2 is 1.57 in radians, pi we know is 3.14, and 3 pi over 2 is 4.71. So this small value of 0.7076 in quadrant 1 would be about here. What we also need to consider is that sine is positive in the second quadrant as well. To help us find the second value of theta, we need to think about the reference angle. Since we're in quadrant 1 to start, our reference angle is the 0.7076, so in quadrant 2, we need to find pi minus 0.7076. Let's throw that in the calculator. I have pi minus theta is pi minus 0.7076, which is 2.4340. So we have two answers to this problem. Let's try another one. Let's say sine of theta is negative 0.37. Again, we're solving over the interval from 0 to 2 pi. Like last time, I'll start by finding the inverse. Sine inverse of negative 0.37 is theta. I put that in my calculator, and it says that theta is negative 0.379. So let's think about this negative value for theta. That tells me that theta is in the fourth quadrant. But we need to express the angle as a positive value. To make the angle positive, we add 2 pi. That tells us that theta is 5.904. Again, we need to think about what other quadrant theta could lie in. Sine is negative in quadrants 4 and quadrant 3, so we want to look for a second angle in quadrant 3. Luckily, we know our reference angle is 0.379. We'll also have a reference angle of 0.379 in quadrant 3, and to get our value of theta, we're going to add pi to 0.379. Our second value of theta, pi plus 0.379, is equal to 3.521. So how can we check our work? We started with sine of theta is equal to negative 0.37, and we said that theta would be equal to 5.904 and 3.521. Let's go over to the calculator and put in these two values of theta into sine to verify that we get negative 0.37. The first thing I'm going to do in my calculator is go to the settings and verify that I'm on radians. Now I'll find the sine of 5.904, and it says negative 0.37, so that one checked. Let's try again. I have sine of 3.521, which also gives us negative 0.37, so we can see that our two angles give us the value originally stated in the problem. Let's try one more problem. This time I'm going to bring in cosine. So I'm given cosine of theta is negative 0.46, and like before, theta is from 0 to 2 pi. I'm going to rewrite this as cosine inverse of negative 0.46 is theta, and use my calculator to find that theta is about 2.049. We can look at the labels for the axis to see where the 2.049 is going to fall, and you'll see that theta is in quadrant 2. So I want you to think, where else is cosine of theta going to be negative? Cosine is positive in quadrants 1 and 4, which means it's negative in quadrants 2 and 3. To find our second value of theta, we want to start by finding the reference angle for 2.049. Our reference angle is equal to pi minus 2.049, which is 1.093. Using our reference angle, our value of theta in quadrant 3 will be equal to pi plus 1.093. We put that in the calculator to get our second value as 4.235. Let's go back to the calculator one more time to make sure we understand how to check our work. We'll type in cosine of 2.049, then I'll type in cosine of 4.235. In both cases, we can see we got a value of negative 0.46. Remember, there will always be two quadrants where sine, cosine, and tangent are positive, and two quadrants where sine, cosine, and tangent are negative, so you should expect to get multiple solutions to any of the equations.